On the show today, Tanzania Central Bank threatens hefty fines for lenders over data compliance. Zambia introduces maize price cap to keep it affordable. Plus, a look at challenges of foreign traders in South Africa. Thank you for joining us and welcome to Business Incorporated. I'm Chimezie Obi Iwago. We'll get the show started now with the markets, and Nigerian equities market and the Johannesburg Stock Exchange are pointing to a negative start of the week. At intraday, the two indices were in the red. The NSE index was down 0.19%, while the JSE index was down 0.22%. And in Egypt, the index was also in the red. Its second day of trading in the new week, the EGX 30 was down 0.64% at intraday. The Nairobi Stock Exchange in Kenya closed the market week on Friday negative. In the Middle East, it was of mixed sentiment at intraday. Saudi Arabia's stocks dropped further after suffering their biggest single-day loss in 3.5 months in the previous session as global trade jitters kept the market on the back foot. The Saudi index was down 0.23%, declining for its fourth straight session, with lenders acting as the biggest drag on the index. Financials also pressured the Qatar index, which fell 0.30%. The Gulf's biggest lender, Qatar National Bank, traded 2.2% lower, and Masraf Al Rayan slipped 0.6%. However, Abu Dhabi's index rebounded 0.58% after 3 consecutive days of losses, with Emirates Telecom gaining 1% and market heavyweight First Abu Dhabi Bank adding 0.7%. Dubai's index was up 0.49%, led higher by real estate stocks, with the Emirates blue chip developer Emma Properties increasing 1% and its unit Emma Developing advancing 2.7%. And in Europe, stocks traded lower in the morning as investors reacted to the latest escalation in the U.S.-China trade war. Well, let's bring in Ashutosh Pandey now for details, speaking to us from the Frankfurt Stock Exchange. Hello, Ashutosh. Good afternoon. A beautiful week to you. Good to see you.
Good afternoon, Chimi. It's always good to be on Channels TV. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Now, global markets have taken a beating following the latest escalation in U.S.-China trade war. How is the mood there in Frankfurt at the moment?
Well, Chimi, yes, the markets did start on a negative note here. They were down, significantly down in the early morning trade. But then President Trump made that announcement in which he said that China had agreed to negotiate for a trade deal, and that's when the markets did go up, as you can see behind me in the DAX there. So clearly markets are cheering this bit of information, and they're ready to lap up any positive news on the trade front because the trade war has been weighing down on sentiments for quite some time. So even if it comes from a highly unreliable President Trump, still the markets are cheering it. Although the volumes have been really low here in Europe, there is also a sense of a loss of confidence of sorts in the way President Trump and the Chinese President Xi Jinping are going about dealing with this trade war. And in fact, an analyst also remarked that the best thing that President Trump can actually do at this point of time to soothe the nerves, to ensure that the markets are stable, is to keep quiet. I mean, and stay away from Twitter.
So what's at stake for Germany, the European economic powerhouse? We all know that it's threatening to enter into a recession.
Yes, the German economy is vulnerable. I mean, today the data came out for the business confidence, which is at more than 6-year low. The manufacturing activity has been contracting at the fastest pace again in years. The famed auto sector, that is struggling, and that is predominantly because of the US-China trade war and ensuing slowdown in China. So there's a lot at stake for the German economy there, and as you rightly mentioned, it is now expected to tip into recession going forward, and also because of the latest announcement by China. If you keep in mind that this time they're also targeting the auto manufacturers in the US, and the biggest auto exporters from the US are German car makers BMW and Daimler. So that's again a further setback to the auto industry here.
And the leaders of the world's leading economies have been meeting in France. The meeting ends today anyway. Any breakthrough as far as dealing with the global economy is concerned?
Sadly not. I mean, there hasn't been any concrete breakthrough there. The leaders were, of course, expected to implore Donald Trump on actually following uh, a more considerate note as far as his tariffs policy is concerned, but clearly they had no luck there. In fact, the White House did come out and say that President Trump does not regret imposing tariffs on China, but the fact that they were not high enough. So that's the kind of rhetoric that came out of the White House. However, later in the day, when President Trump did make this announcement about China agreeing to talk, the sentiments did improve. But clearly, even that to begin with, there wasn't a lot of expectation of a major breakthrough there because China, one of the main parties to this trade war, was not present during the G7 meeting. And if you remember, last time the world was going through a similar slowdown at the height of global financial crisis. That's when the G7 actually invited the other members of G20, and they all came up with a common strategy to deal with the economic mess. This time there hasn't been any common strategy that has been announced so far.
Well, Ashutosh, I guess those global developments will dominate discussions in the course of this week, so let's continue to keep a tab on them. Enjoy the rest of the day. In the UK, it's a bank holiday and markets are closed. However, investors there are monitoring the trade war escalation as well as the meeting of the G7 summit in France. Well, let's hear from my colleague there in London, Juliana. Hello, Juliana. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Chimaze.
So how is the weather this bank holiday? Weather forecasts indicate that UK will experience the warmest late August bank holiday. Is that the case today?
Well, if the weather forecasters are correct and it does hit 33 degrees in some parts of the UK, including London, then yes, it will be record breaking and it would be the hottest bank holiday ever on record. Some reports are saying that it's hotter here in the UK than it is in Honolulu, Hawaii, though I must say I prefer to be in Hawaii at the moment. Of course, it has been quite a wet and chilly August, so because of that reason, thousands of people are flocking to beaches and parks up and down the country. And of course, just a couple of minutes away from where we are, we've got the Notting Hill Carnival, which is expected to host millions of people across the UK. So yes, it's hot, but of course you can't talk about extreme weather in Britain without there being some conditions. And the Met Office are warning people to stay out of the sun between 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. Of course, heat stroke and heat exhaustion can hit very quickly, particularly for those who are young and those who are elderly. And they have said to people, stay away from the alcohol. So there are some measures in place. But yes, it's been a bright and lovely weekend here in the UK.
Great. Well, while you guys there enjoy the hot weather, for now, what's the conversation there about the US-China trade war and the G7's meeting, which ends today?
Well, it's been interesting. Of course, everybody has been talking about Trump and Xi Jinping. Xi Jinping, of course, wasn't there. But Trump has said some things on and off camera that some people say, don't really tell the right story. When he was having a bilateral meeting with Boris Johnson, he told reporters during a spray that he kind of reflected on this tariff war and perhaps he has made a wrong decision. A couple of hours later, the White House released a statement saying that he had been misinterpreted, that in fact, if he is reflecting on the war with China, then he wants those trade tariffs to be much more aggressive. That hasn't gone down well in Beijing and their markets opened particularly lower today. But if we talk about Boris Johnson and the British press, there are three things that they're focusing on during his time in Biarritz, and that's really the Amazon, Donald Trump and Brexit. Boris Johnson has come together with other leaders and he's he's personally pledged, or from the UK pot, £10 million to stop the destruction of the Amazon. Today, or yesterday, was the first time that he actually had face-to-face talks with Donald Trump. They've obviously spoken lots and lots over the phone, but this is the first time he's spoken to him since becoming Prime Minister face-to-face. And off the back of that meeting, Downing Street have now produced some sort of working group where they'll be talking to Washington about how they can connect via space and technology innovation. So it seems good. And sources close to the camp at the G7 are saying that potentially at the UNGA meeting next month, there could be a bilateral trade agreement signed between the two. Very quickly as well, Chimaze, we've got to talk about Brexit. Donald Tusk, the EU Council leader, he was invited to G7, and there have been lots of rumblings and moanings about this divorce bill. It's set at £39 billion. Boris Johnson insists that he will not be paying, but he has said if they leave without a deal, he potentially would be able to cough up 10 million. So lots and lots to discuss, and I'm sure there'll be further news that we'll be talking about later during the week.
Absolutely, Juliana. Well, a not too good one from BA there. The pilots have announced September strike dates, and that is already causing a lot of confusion amongst passengers, as it seems those not built to travel on those dates are even affected. What's going on?
Yes, it's been a very messy weekend for BA, even messier for their customers. They take about 144,000 passengers to different destinations every single day. And yes, the BA pilots have said that there will be 3 strike dates starting from September the 7th because of this fallout in the pay conditions. But there was an incident over the weekend because a couple of emails were sent out to some passengers who were due to fly before those strikes are due to take place, and those emails were inaccurate. Over 100,000 people were affected by this email, and BA have since said that it was a complete mistake, that those flights won't be cancelled, but the damage had been done. BA issued a statement saying that within the first 24 hours of this incorrect email being sent out, that they had received over 44,000 phone calls, over 30,000 tweets, but a lot of people just couldn't get in touch with BA. There was one lady, one passenger, who said that she had called BA 70 times over the weekend. She couldn't get through, and because she couldn't, she actually booked another flight in another hotel, so she's lost a lot of money. BA have ensured that things are back in place and that they have spoken to as many customers as they can, and people will be entitled to a refund. So it seems that this messy problem between BA and their passengers keeps rumbling on.
Well, I guess, Juliana, you don't have any plans to travel in BA one of those dates. Anyway, thank you and enjoy the rest of the day. And stocks in Asia fell today following an escalation in the US-China trade war late last week. Hong Kong's Hang Seng Index led losses in the region as it dropped more than 2% as of its final hour of trading following another weekend of violent protests in the city. Mainland Chinese stocks also saw declines on the day. Elsewhere, the Nikkei 225 in Japan dropped 2.17%. The Topix Index declined 1.61%. Losses were also seen in South Korea, where the Kospi fell 1.64%. Australia's ASX 200 finished its trading day 1.27% lower. And in the U.S., stock index futures pointed to a recovery in the morning after President Trump said China is ready to come back to the negotiating table following a phone call on Sunday, and the two countries will start talking very seriously. Dow Jones Industrial Average futures traded 154 points higher, indicating a rise of 208.10 points, and that's as of 3:25 a.m. Eastern Time. S&P 500 and Nasdaq 100 also pointed to opening gains for both indices. Away from the equities market there, Tanzania's central bank has given banks and financial institutions 3 months to establish data centers in the East African nation, saying it will impose hefty fines on lenders that fail to comply. The regulator issued a circular on Friday that imposes a fine of 5 billion Tanzanian shillings for lenders that have not set up an in-country data center. Every bank or financial institution must establish a data center within 3 months from the date of the circular. An institution found not compliant will be fined 500 million shillings per month until it complies.